conditions. I noticed the first line of the draft ordinance is missing, so if you do entertain this ordinance, I'd just like to suggest that you add the first line of the ordinance you just introduced, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calistoga amending.
Oh, okay.
So, don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I will open the public hearing. Questions of staff?
Lynn, you said that if we put this new language in, or strike the language
Strike
to
the
make
language.
it other than existing, that would probably require a use permit and or going before the Planning Commission. Will that be written into the ordinance, or is that just kind of standard procedure?
That's already in our bed and breakfast
it's
inn
already
chapter.
in, okay.
Right.
I noticed it wasn't in here. Okay.
Right, and that's just because that particular section is in the definitions chapter,
okay.
which is wholly
So it's already in
separate.
there.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So it's very likely, unless it was very minimal changes that staff could approve that weren't, that were minor or noticeable, it's a very good chance that it would go to the Planning Commission as a public hearing and give the neighbors and residents an opportunity to weigh in.
Is there anything in the ordinance that we used to create auxiliary dwelling units that would prohibit someone that has a bed and breakfast going, gee whiz, I'd like to put an auxiliary dwelling unit in my backyard here, and then all of a sudden it's rented out as well?
Well,
as a bed and breakfast thing.
That could happen under a use permit if they constructed an accessory dwelling unit. Any portion of the residence could be converted. In most of the residential districts, it still has to remain 51% devoted to residential uses. So the ones that are in the heart of town, they still have to be primarily residential. So we would have to look at that if that was counting towards the square footage that was occupied on a full-time basis by the live-in manager, and then they wanted to convert that to a B&B guest room.
Okay, so
Is
we
it
have
still
something
compliant
in
with
progress, so all of a sudden we don't find out that we have 5 accessory dwelling
They would
units
have
going
to,
in the backyards
right.
to be used
That would be a
basically to expand their business.
hefty price to pay to construct a wholly new accessory dwelling unit. I mean, they would have to charge a lot to recoup that. But that was actually part of the concern, is that somebody could go and just construct something like that, and it wasn't necessarily part of the B&B, and then come in and say, I'd like to use this as guest unit number 4. So is that now existing? Is it an existing structure? Well, yeah, it's an existing structure. Maybe they constructed it with this in mind, but that would be the workaround for this. So we felt like, well, that didn't make any sense, that people would go and do new construction.
We do have a mechanism that
but
somewhat control.
Yes, anytime residential use is converted to the B&B use, it would have to go through a use permit.
What's the trigger point that takes the Craftsman Inn to a hotel, from a B&B to a hotel?
It is the number of rooms, because they are going to have 13 rooms, and the maximum number under their old zoning was 10, and they wanted to have 13. So we actually rezoned that property to downtown commercial.
Okay.
So they will be considered a hotel.
Yeah.
They can call themselves whatever they want.
Yeah.
But they wanted to exceed the 10 rooms, and that was the only way that could have happened.
They would have different building code requirements. That it's a significant jump in the hotel. It's the fire code that I'm aware of.
What about the reverse? I own a 5-bedroom house, and I want to build an ADU. I'm going to go live in the ADU and convert my 5-bedroom house to a B&B.
Well, again, it has to be 51% residential. The use of the property has to be still a primary residential use.
So that wouldn't fit then.
Right, so you would
Okay.
balance the 2,000 square feet of B&B use against the 750 square foot residence.
Any other questions of staff at the moment? No. Mr. Epps? Papa, you want to say something?
Have you been sitting here since 6 o'clock?
I got here late.
Yeah, he's always late.
Yeah.
He missed the other hearing, too. It was done.
So, anyway, Gary brought up a point earlier about building exhaust. This is exactly what happened was, speaking of the Pink Mansion, we are zoned for 10 rooms. And I don't know what the date was. It was before Lynn got here. We were at, I believe, 6. Nick Kite, speaking of him, he was actually the one who headed up the group to go before Planning Commission and allow a certain group of 5 or 6 B&Bs on Foothill Boulevard to allow them to have up to 10 rooms. And it seemed like we met for, I don't know, maybe a year, and it never came up that there was this 1983 definition that said a bed and breakfast was accommodation, she probably has it there, for existing structures only. And I've been here for 25 years, and I have never, previous staff, we have never heard of that before. It literally got buried. But Ms. Goldberg is pretty smart. She found it. And so what came up...
Just the center of it today.
Yeah. But what I wasn't a little bit upset about was what Mr. Krause said. A lot of people kind of skirt the rules, and they want to come in and they ask for an auxiliary building. Let me get 2 auxiliary buildings. Build those, then walk back into the planning department and say, okay, you know what? I changed my mind. I want to make those into guest rooms. And by law and by code, I think Ms. Goldberg would say we would fit that. But my point was, why we don't want to do that. Why go that route? Why don't we just be honest from the very beginning and say this is what we want to do? So in order to be honest and say this is what we want to do, we need to change the definition to allow not only myself but other B&Bs to, if they meet the other conditions set forth by the planning department, that they could technically be able to build a cottage or a structure outside of their existing dwelling. So that's kind of where we're at here tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from the public? Seeing nobody, I will close the public hearing. Bring it back to council. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Unless, Jim, would you want this one?
You're on a roll, Gary. Read them all.
Usually on the ordinances I
Yeah.
do them. I don't know why. I have an uninteresting voice, I guess. But I'll introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calistoga amending chapter... Oops. You handed me a different one. Okay, amending the Municipal Code Section 17.04.085 to delete the requirement for B&B guest rooms to be located within an existing structure. Z0A 2018-1.
I'll second it.
And waive the first reading.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kraus,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez Ortega,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dunsford,
Aye.
and we'll note Mayor Canning is absent.
Thank you. The final item here on the agenda is number 11, consideration of a resolution authorizing fiscal year 2018-19 community enrichment grant awards. And this is under general government, and it's not a public hearing.
So
Who will be
I'll
leading
take you
us?
to that.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Honorable Vice Mayor and council members, the matter before you is, there is some background. The City Council established a fiscal year 2018-2019 Community Enrichment Grant, and I'm just going to say CEG for short, program through the adoption of the resolution 2018-034, which is attached. And they established a subcommittee to review it, consisting of Councilmember Lopez Ortega and Councilmember Kraus, as well as the city manager. The subcommittee met on June 18th to disperse, to talk about disbursement of the funds. The staff did, in the meantime, send out to the public notice that there was available applications for nonprofit groups, and we received 14 total requests seeking a cash and in-kind funding amount of $93,730 for this fiscal year 2018-19. Two of the applications that we received were late, so they weren't considered during the discussion about the awards of the grants. So after June 18th, they met and had some questions that needed clarifying. So when we received clarification, they met again on June 9th to evaluate the CEG requests and make sure that the objectives were met from the resolution. The funding grants requests were in excess of the amount that we had budgeted, so some decisions needed to be made on how the requests best were addressed by the 5 criteria, which is to provide services to the elderly of the community, provide services to the youth of the community, enhance the appearance of the community, expand services to the members of the Hispanic community, and provide community-specific environmental benefits. So these 5 items were the criteria. Any one of these could have been met in order to receive the grant. And you've got all of the applicants and the amounts that were recommended in front of you. I'm not going to go through that list. It's quite extensive. The committee had to reduce some of the requests because of a lack of funding, but they gave meaningful funding levels and established the established budget limit so that we did not go over that. Some of the funding was for cash, as I said, and some was for in-kind services, so no cash was expended for that. So if you want to take a look at what was approved, I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions? First, would like to thank Councilmember Kraus and Iris for serving. Job well done. Any questions on any item?
Looks like a good list. You guys did very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
They were very thorough and thoughtful.
I will move to approve.
I second.
I'm sorry. Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak to this item? Jim, I know you've been holding out. No? Okay.
He wants to be close to the doors so he can be the first out of the room.
All right, so I motioned, Iris seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that concludes tonight's meeting. I will adjourn the meeting to the next. Do I have to adjourn to the corporation? Okay, so I'm adjourning to August 7th. So adjourn the council meeting, regular council meeting, Tuesday, August 7th. And I will now call to order the Calistoga Public Facilities Corporation meeting. Oral communications. Anybody wish to address the council? See nobody. Can I get a motion to adopt the meeting agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. General activities. We have the Calistoga Public Facilities Corporation minutes. We need to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously. The annual report of the Calistoga Public Facilities Corporation, receive and file the report, which I believe we have attached. Any questions regarding the report?
I think we ought to get a full blow-by-blow description of this from Gloria tonight. She's been over there just far underutilized.
Going to read all those numbers again, right?
No. But I'll
Perhaps
just
a
give you-
PowerPoint presentation.
No PowerPoint presentation.
Darn.
I'll give you a short summary. So once a year, I meet, give you an update on what the Calistoga Public Facilities Corporation has been doing. For the most part, we continue to pay our debt. We do it on a timely basis. As you well know, this year we refinanced our 2 water debt services and 2 wastewater debt services. And of course, they go through the Calistoga Public Facilities Corporation because it is a way to do our public financing. And so, as you well know, we had $8.9 million in debt on those 4 issuance that we were able to refinance, and it actually helped us to reduce our interest. And by doing this, we were able to realize a cash savings total of approximately $1.12 million and a net present value savings of $784,000. And attached with this report is just the debt schedule and what the new debt looks like. So that concludes my report, our annual report for the Calistoga Public Facilities Corporation.
Okay. Do we need a motion to accept the report?
I don't think so.
No.
The staff report
just-
didn't call for that.
Yeah? Okay, so we received it, and it's now filed.
It'll be filed.
Thank you very much. That concludes, I will adjourn the meeting until July, it says July 16th, 2019. So that's the adjournment, next date.